Welcome back to Sports Dump, Lewis County's only sports podcast. We're sponsored by Elam's Home Furnishings and Mattress Gallery, Goebel Septic, and Americool Heating and Cooling. I'm Aaron Van Tile, joined by the Chronicle sports guys, Dylan Wilhelm and Zach Martin, and we're doing this very special Easter edition of Sports Dump on the holiday, so you should all feel very very special for getting to listen. And we're doing it over Zoom, so if there's any audio problems, it's definitely not on the production side. It's on Zoom side.
Don't say that we don't care about this area.
Yeah. So how are you guys doing?
Doing good. Happy Easter, everybody.
Happy Easter.
Yeah, doing good.
All right.
Can't complain. Let's just get right into it. We don't have a lot of time.
We don't have unlimited time. We have 40 minutes. That's the Zoom cap, and we've been talking for a few already. So I think we're down to like 35. But a lot has happened this spring, so this will serve as our unofficial midway-ish point to get through what we've seen over the last few weeks. You guys good with starting with baseball?
Let's do it.
All right. Some of our A teams are in good spots heading into the playoff push. In the Evergreen 2A Conference, that is Tumwater and WF West. They are number 1 and number 2 in the EvCo. Tumwater just beat WF West in the two teams' first meeting on Friday, 7-0. Dylan was there. How does Tumwater look?
Very good, especially when Derek Thompson is throwing the way he is. He allowed 3 hits total, just 2 hits just 1 before the 6th. He then allowed 2 in the 7th. Got out of that jam without allowing a run. And then offensively, they're just very consistent. There was no real big inning in that game. They just kind of got too early and then just like kept adding on. They put a lot of pressure on the WF West defense with, how many base runners they had and getting guys moving. It was a pretty uncharacteristic day for WF West. I think they'll be okay. Yeah. And these two teams will play 2 more times in the regular season alone. So that's the first punch, but it's the first of many for both these teams who, I still think they're clearly the 2 best teams in the EvCo, and it'll be one of them.
Do you feel like they will? One of them will wind up in the Final Four?
I think depending on how it lines up, I think they both could make the Final Four.
Yeah, that's the thing that's happened. But that's not out of the question by any stretch of the imagination. That has happened. Yeah. So,
yeah.
All right, Black Hills
multiple times.
Yeah, they're always over there.
Yeah.
All right, Black Hills and Centralia have combined for just 1 win and are currently 5th and 6th in the standings. One of them will probably get a pigtail spot by default because Shelton is a 3A team that just kind of masquerades as a 2A team just to see how it feels. Any bright spots for those 2 teams?
Okay. Maybe it's not a bright spot, but Centralia, they've been very competitive. Just talking to Jake LeDuc about this, there's just a couple of these games where, for whatever reason, this last inning has just seemed to kind of bite them. These late innings, they'll go in with a 1-2 run lead, and for whatever reason, like against Shelton at Cheney Stadium a couple weeks ago, they were up 4-3 going into the bottom of the 7th. It's a 4-pitch walk, a bunt single, a wild pitch, and then like a ground ball finds its way down the line past the first baseman, and just like that, it's things like that. When don't get me wrong, they've lost a few blowouts here and there as well, but there's just been a couple of these games where it's just like 2-3 minutes of just, I don't even want to say bad baseball. It's a walk. It's a good bunt single that, dribbled down the line. And then it's just like a grounder that dribbled its way through. It's just kind of these tough way to lose a couple of these games, specifically a couple of those to Shelton, that I'm sure they'd love to have back.
All right. Moving into the 1As. Tenino started off 10-0, but just dropped 2-3 to Montesano. Rochester's won 7 after starting 1-4. What are the odds we see both of these teams get to the state tournament, at least to the regional round of the state tournament?
I'd say, honestly, I think it's a pretty good shot. I think Rochester's performed a lot better. They're getting better pitching, and they're hitting the ball a lot better. And Tenino, I think Tenino is one of the best teams in 1A, even if they only end up dropping 2 out of 3 to Monty, which I think is a top 3 team in 1A as well. They came back that 3rd game of the set, ended up winning 14-10, 14-12, something like that. Tenino did. So that shows some moxie. I think there's a good shot that both these teams could get to at least the regional round of 1A state baseball.
All right. Did Tenino finish what were they, 2nd last year?
Third.
Okay. All right.
And they beat in one of their non-league games, they beat over Lake Bear Creek, who beat them in the semis and then went on to win state. So they got their revenge over them. And who else? They got another impressive non-league win. I don't know. I'm blanking. But yeah, obviously started 10-0. And Rochester, they started 1-4. One of those losses was to Woodland, a decent 2A team, and then they got swept by Tenino. So those aren't bad losses at all. And now they've swept Elma. They beat Washougal. I think they swept Hoquiam. Like now that they're getting into some of these, other evergreen teams,
Rochester gets Monty this week, so this will be a real test to see how they perform against Monty.
And they go 4 teams go to districts out of Evergreen, 4 of the 5.
Yeah,
I think so.
4. Yeah, they get 4 spots because they get 4. The Trico gets 5.
Okay, all right. In the C2BL, it's a couple familiar teams up top. Neither Napavine or Adna have lost a league game yet, and the 2 teams are combined 25-2 overall. They'll play for the first time later this week. Who ends up winning the league title, or do they split it? I feel like I'm inclined to lean Adna, but maybe that's just my inherent bias. But where do you guys land on that?
I think I'm going to cop out and say they split it.
Okay,
I'll take the cop-out answer.
I'm not going to cop out. I think Napavine wins it. I've been high on Napavine since the season started. I think Cal Bullock is the best pitcher in the area, or the best 2B pitcher in the area. Leighton Griffith just threw a no-hitter. Now, granted, it was against Morton White Pass, so take it with a grain of salt. NWP is winless. But I think I've been high on Napavine since the year started, and I think they've got the goods. They're top 3 in the batting order of Landrum, Bullock, Grady Wilson. I think as can stack up with any top 3 in the area, regardless of classification. So I think Napavine wins the league title outright.
Who's pitching for Adna this year? Who's their ace?
Nakano.
Nakano's pitching really well. He threw a shutout against Tootle the other day. Granted, Tootle's not as stacked as it was last year.
Yeah.
Losing a few guys. I'm trying to think.
Bo Miller's always started a couple games.
Guerrero's pitched a couple. I think it's Talon, I believe.
Talon Guerrero.
Yeah.
Guerrero's and Overbays. I just cannot.
Well, there's a handful of Guerreros out there.
Yeah.
And then
I put Tyson in an article. That wasn't even close.
Yeah, he's been out of school for like 10 years.
Exactly.
And then the Hoynowski, is that his last name?
Yeah, Danner Hoynowski.
He's pretty good too, right? He's having a pretty solid campaign.
Yeah, he's having a really good season at the plate. He was all area
last
year.
Is he their catcher?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
He's their catcher, and then he'll pitch too. He'd be like their reliever, their closer kind of.
All right. Elsewhere in the C2BL, Toledo is a solid 10-3. They're 8-2 in league play. They are comfortably in third, although didn't they just lose to Rainier?
They lost one of the games to Rainier 5-2, and then they won the second game 17-16.
That sounds like they both ran out of pitching.
And I think they're still up 3 games on Rainier overall.
All right. Riverhawks comfortably in third. Ani Masriak,
they're up way more than 3.
Ani Masriak and Tootle Lake make up the rest of the top 6. So yeah, that was a kind of a notebook win for Rainier. Is Toledo that much better than the rest of kind of that group? Are they kind of in their own in third place?
I would say so. Yeah, they've got a better lineup. I don't know necessarily if they have the better pitching, but they've got the better lineup that they can easily, they can plate some runs.
All right.
Quick note on Rainier. They're currently in. Oh, they're in 7th. The WIA website has Wakaiyakam in this league for some reason, even though Wakaiyakam's a 1B. Where I was going with that, Winlock's technically the 8 right now. There is a pigtail in the 2B baseball bracket this year, and the 8th from the C2BL will get that. So Winlock is currently in that spot, and Rainier is in 7th. If you don't count Wakaiyakam. Yeah.
Okay. If you don't, which you shouldn't.
Which I don't know why they're there, but.
All right. Over in the Pacific League, Peel Valley is 5-4 and 2-2 in league play. Which out of the teams mentioned, who is the favorite for district champ, and is it just going to come down to Adna and Napavine?
It'll come down to Adna and Napavine, but I think PWV's got a shot to run through districts and get to to state and 2B. Them or Mossy, I think, just because I trust Mossy's. If Cobb, if Easton Cobb can have a manipulated pitch count, I think Mossy could do something. They've just got to hit the ball better.
All right. In the 1Bs, Oakville's 3-5 overall. We don't know how they're doing in league because we don't know what their league's named, and it's not on the WIA website. But we presume Wahkiakum is Wahkiakum in there. Nope, Wahkiakum's in a different
C2BL
one.
on their website. I'm assuming. I don't know.
We don't know about the 1Bs. The 1Bs again.
Mossy Rock is also listed in a 1B league. The WIA website is incredible.
It's cooked.
All right.
This is a trend. This isn't the first time we'll say the standings don't let us see some things in this podcast.
This podcast is brought to you by Goebel Septic, providing septic service and sanitation for Thurston, Lewis, Mason, Cowlitz, and Grays Harbor counties. Septic pumping inspection and riser installation, commercial septic pumping, grease trap services, porta potty rentals, sink rentals to go along with those porta potties. Visit goebelseptic.com. That's GOEBEL septic.com. Or give them a call, 736-2167. Over to softball and one of the discussions I can't wait to have. We'll get there in a second. But Aberdeen, Tumwater, and WF West are the top 3 teams in the EvCo. Before we jump into anything else, rank those 3 teams. Dylan, who you got?
Aberdeen, WF West, Tumwater.
Aberdeen, oh man. Do I have to? I can't rank these teams.
I give Aberdeen the Lily Camp bump. I saw her against WF West a couple weeks ago.
She struck out like 15 or something.
She struck out 18, and Kevin Zylstra afterwards was essentially, it was just 4 minutes of us going like, well, what can you do? She's hitting 68. She's going D1. Like, that was basically, he said it straight up. He's like, that's what a D1 game is like. That's what D1 pitching is like. And you could turn the machine up to the high 60s all you want, but when it's coming out of someone's hand like that with that much pop and that much movement.
Yeah.
Then they beat it, and then they chase the D1 pitcher out of the game literally 3 days later.
Is that Friday when they beat Tumwater and Ella Ferguson?
Yes. That was probably the best WFS has played so far, like a complete game. Taylor Tobin danced out of some really difficult jams, bases loaded in the 3rd. Tie and run at the plate in the 5th and 7th inning. And then Avalon Myers and Carly Coleman showed what a 3-4 combo can do. Both hit a home run, both hit a double, both had 5 total RBIs. Or they had all 5 RBIs. So yeah, complete win for WF West, and a game that they really needed after Camp shut them down, and to chase Ferguson out after just 4 2/3, like that was probably the most eye popping part of that game.
Okay. WF West is currently in 3rd because they lost another game. They got taken down by Centralia a couple weeks back. Centralia is 5th at 2-4 in league play. They're a half game back at Black Hills and a full game in front of Shelton, which is in last. It's been an up and down year for Centralia so far. Can they get up to 4 and make a run in districts?
I think so. I don't know if I think the offense has just been a little too inconsistent these last couple of weeks. They started off swinging really well. Maybe it's just a product of like getting into the EvCo with all these great pitchers that, maybe the offense was just kind of naturally bound for a little bit of a decline, but they were scoring 10 plus, almost in every single non-league game. They also tied Toledo at one point, which Toledo has 2 ties in softball, which is kind of.
Don't they have isn't there a way to like avoid that?
You would think so.
It's called to install lights in your field.
They're doing one of those.
But yeah, they've only scored, they put up 10 in a loss to Shelton the other day, but other than that, they've scored 5 runs in their last 4 games. Besides that loss, and they've lost 4 straight. I think once the offense gets going a little bit more, maybe, once they see these pitchers a second and third time through, I think they certainly have more firepower than last year.
All right, now for the discussion I wanted to have. Who's your EvCo MVP? Is it Lily Camp out of Aberdeen, or is it Ella Ferguson out of Tumwater, or is there a third-party candidate that could arise?
It's probably Camp out of Aberdeen right now.
I think it's Camp too.
But I think if there's a dark horse, I think it's Avalon Myers for WF West.
Okay.
The way she said, I think her average is in the 500s. I think she's got She's got a lot of home. She's got a handful of home runs. She's been WFL's best player in my opinion. So I think if there's a dark horse, she would get it. But I think WFLS would have to win the league. Whoever wins league, the best player from that team will probably win MVP.
All right, Dylan, do you concur?
I do. I was looking at the stats. Centralia's catcher, Madeline Mad Dog Rothdeutsch, I believe I pronounced that correctly.
Is that a legal
name? Madeline is the legal name. If she has a big second half, I think she's a catcher from California who moved up this past off, transferred in. I think if she had a really strong start to the year as well. If she kind of, I mean, she probably won't win MVP, but she might get some discussion if she could have like a strong finish and kind of propel Centralia and that offense up. I think Maddie Mounts too is having a really good year. She transferred from Black Hills to Centralia. I think I just saw on Game Changer she's hitting 500. So one of the Centralia girls probably wouldn't win it because they probably will still end up, fourth, maybe third at best, just because of how stacked these top teams are. But I think it's worth at least mentioning their name at whatever coaches meeting they end up having.
All right, on to the 1As. We can't see the Evergreen softball standings, the 1A Evergreen, but Rochester is 4-0 in league play, 8-2 overall. This is a team that made state as a 2A team last season. Could they make a deep run in the 1A bracket this year?
Yeah, I think if they don't get if they don't get to the quarterfinals, I think this season will be looked at as not a failure, but it's gonna be like disappointment because they've got the pitching with Lena Demers. 7 of the 9 batters were back from last year's 2A team that nearly beat what was the defending champion North Kitsap. So I think this is a team that can go far in 1A.
All right, Dylan, agree?
Oh, 100%. I've been saying since they made state last year, just how excited we are to watch them in 1A, just because, I mean, Demers was sweeping through some of these stacked 2A lineups at districts and then ultimately in the state tournament. And she just struck out 10, I think, against Riverside and Walla Walla over the weekend, 5 shutout innings, only allowing 2 hits. It's just fun to watch and it's fun to see.
All right. Tenino also 0-9, probably out of the playoff running. Let's move on to the C2BL. Adna and Rainier remain the last 2 unbeaten teams in league play. Napavine, Toledo, and Tootolink all have 1 league loss. Rainier and Adna play for the first time on Thursday. How do we feel about that one? And is it still Adna versus the field?
Until the field tells me otherwise, it's Adna.
Okay. If you guys, how much would you bet on Adna winning another state championship this year?
Oh, well, hold on. Well, Dylan already put rent on Adna girls basketball, so
that didn't work.
He's almost homeless. He's homeless by the end of this podcast, potentially.
I actually have to leave in like half an hour. I got to pack up all this when we're done.
You know what? These Adna girls programs have shown that they can get there, and then it's taken away from you. So I'm not gonna say anything until I see how a bracket shapes out.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. However, I think softball is a different monster than basketball and volleyball have been for Adna. Sorry, I got an email and it dinged. I thought I had that shut off.
As Josh would say, it is an outdoor sport, so I'm doubling down and going Adna.
Yeah,
we're saving the apartment. We're getting that back.
Who's pitching for Adna this year? Who do they have?
Avery LaFontaine.
Yeah, it's not Ava Sims. Ava Sims still recovering from the injury that she suffered during volleyball, right? When did she suffer this injury?
I don't remember. I remember it was bothering her last year during softball because LaFontaine ended up pitching the district title game, and Sims kind of gutted through it at state.
And then Sims had surgery.
Yeah.
And she has not pitched an inning yet. Has not even played in a game yet.
Interesting.
You know who is playing softball though, and actually already has a homer? Karsyn Freeman is doing both track and softball. Oh, she is doing double duty.
She could win 2 state championships within like a couple hours.
Well, it would be within a week because softball.
Oh, right. That's why she could do it. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
So,
yeah, good for her. Or are they just like, well, yeah, didn't we talk to Banish about this? He was in for the basketball thing and mentioned that, Freeman could potentially do both, and said something about like, yeah, we don't know where she'd play in the field, but I think she can hit the ball really far. So they might.
Yeah, she can run fast too. I've seen her courtesy run multiple times.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. That's pretty cool. That's a good put a pin in that. That's a good playoffs are coming feature story.
Yeah, definitely.
100%.
So are any of the other softball players running track on the side?
None that I know of. I know a couple from talking to Banish. I know a couple other Adna girls considered it.
Yeah.
But I don't think any are, and then I don't know of any of the others.
I'm sure there are if we look deep enough, but not that I know of.
All right, great. Yeah, that's pretty funny. Okay. Yeah. So how do we feel about Rainier? What's their deal?
It's actually pretty impressive that they're playing this well, because Brooklyn Swenson, who was going to be their best player, obviously got ruptured Achilles in the district title game for basketball. So yeah, they've been playing exceptionally well. That's probably been the biggest surprise, at least of the spring so far, is they've just been consistently playing well and beating some good teams in the process.
All right. And then who else do we have? Napavine, Toledo, Tootle Lake. Are any of them threats to take the throne or anything?
I don't know about take the throne, maybe to get to state. Napavine with the Faye, the battery of Fays, and then Hayden Cow, Taylor Evander. That's a really good team. Peyton Holter, we saw get to state and have a great run last year. That Toledo team is still so young. I kind of forgot last year they had the 4 seniors. Everybody else was a 9th grader or a freshman or an 8th grader. So I still think they're just as talented, even, minus a couple of those seniors from last year, but a lot of kids have kind of stepped up. Haven't seen Tootle yet. On Alaska, lost Lisa Liddell, who, what's the term? She reclassified. Yeah. So she's at Grand Canyon. She'll be with Lily Camp. Lily Camp will be with her next year. So Braylon Babb's been pitching, which from just talking to Rich about it, she's doing, pretty well as you could expect for someone who I don't think he either said she hasn't pitched before or it's been a while. Like she hasn't pitched at the high school level. She seems to be doing well. So,
all right.
Yeah, that's kind of the middle pecking order.
PWV, I know they weren't mentioned in the notes, but PWV, 7-3 right now. They beat Warden, who won the 2B district title, 12-1 earlier. They did lose to Adna 19-5. So put a pin in that. And then
a bunch of kids were sick that day, from what I heard and could tell.
Astomani, which obviously is a 1A 11-1 last week. Good test for them on Friday against Rochester. So that'd be a real good test for the Titans.
All right. This podcast brought to you by Elam's Home Furnishings and Mattress Gallery. Everything you need for your living room, bedroom, dining room, entertainment center, or your office. You'd find it at Elam's Home Furnishings and Mattress Gallery. Great deals at 1530 South Gold Street in Centralia. Visit elamshf.com for more information. And we got some soccer news, too. On the pitch, Tumwater, WF West, and Aberdeen are all 4-1 in EvCo play. Zach saw Tumwater beat WF West on Friday. How was that? Was that cool?
It was a fine game. Theme from a lot that I've talked to a lot of EvCo coaches this year is just missed opportunities. Tumwater had a couple against Aberdeen, and they lost 3-2 in PKs. They would have buried a couple chances early. They could have won that game. WF West, similar thing happened on Friday against Tumwater. They had 4 really good looks at the net, couple on free kicks that just went a little wide, and then Tumwater broke through on a short corner in the first half, and then added 2 more in the second half. So I think the EvCo is it's a lot more competitive this year, is what I've noticed. Even Centralia, played it close with Tumwater for 70 minutes earlier this season before Dylan Stevens scored 2 goals. Black Hills kept it close with Tumwater for a half, and then the floodgates kind of opened. So the EvCo is a lot more competitive this year from least the game matches that I've seen, and just talking from the area coaches that they got to bring it each night, or someone's gonna clip them.
All right, we're running low on time here, so I'm going to blast through some of these. In the 1A Evergreen, Rochester's third at 7-3. Tenino's seventh at 3-7. Zach saw Rochester beat Tenino 10 days ago. Real quick, what was working for the Warriors?
They're just a lot deeper, and they've got a really good attack. They've got a really good midfield and attacking offensive unit. So as long as they score a lot of goals, they're gonna be fine.
All right. In the 1A Trico, United is 7th at 3-6. Onalaska's new program is 0-8. Which one of those teams does our boy Christoph Danger play for?
Affiliate United.
Ah, what a great name on that kid.
It's a first team all-state name.
Yeah, just phenomenal. I was so happy to finally get to unleash my joke on Dylan of actually Danger's his middle name. The Austin Powers special. So happy with that. All right. This podcast brought to you by Americool Heating and Air Conditioning. Visit our friends. If you are either too hot or too cold, you can call their 24/7 emergency service line at 360-523-1904 because your comfort is their business. They provide full service HVAC installation services and repair with a 100% satisfaction guarantee on everything they do. Visit west.americoolonline.com to learn more about their services. You've got a few additional college notes on here, but before that, any big track stuff? Who's going to track, Zach?
Activators was on Saturday. Amanda Bennett won the javelin, her third javelin Activators title, and set a PR to win the pole vault. She cleared 10-foot even. Tumwater boys and girls won the team title. Acacia Murphy for Rainier won the high jump. Rainier girls had a handful of wins. Yeah, good. Dylan Rubin King wrote all that stuff, so check out his stories at cronline.com. But some good performances over at Activators last week. But those were Amanda Bennett winning her third javelin and PR into the pole vault was definitely one of the highlights.
All right, cool. Dylan, do you want to give a quick CC check-in? How is baseball and softball doing?
Yeah, they're on opposite paths right now. Softball has lost 9 straight and is 10-21 overall, 6-14 in NWAC play. But baseball has won 7 straight. They're 18-20 overall, but they're 9-7 in conference play. And I was trying to look at the bracket from last year. I think the top 4 teams from the NWAC, each division, make it to the baseball postseason, if I remember correctly. And I think they're in 4th right now, if I remember correctly.
Baseball, just like everything else, is it over in Pasco?
It's in Longview, actually.
Oh, yeah, they have it down at that Story Field down there, I think.
Oh, at Lower Columbia's field? Okay.
Yeah. All right, a couple quick hitters before we get out of here. We're going to skip the how many teams in each sport make it to state, but current front runners for MVP in each sport. Overall, just who's the best, who's having the most impressive season for you guys individual-wise? Baseball, who's doing it?
Cal Bullock.
Okay.
Napavine.
I really like what Austin Gagne's doing at Tenino at the plate and on the mound, kind of like Bullock.
Okay. Softball.
I can't say Lily Camp. Give me a minute.
I'd probably go with who I said earlier was the dark horse. I'd go Avalon Myers, WF West.
Okay. Soccer.
It's hard to go against Dylan Stevens right now from Tumwater, but I'd say him or I'd probably say Dylan Stevens, Tumwater.
Dylan, Christoph Danger.
I agree with that one. Danger's up there too. He scored a bunch.
Yeah.
And maybe I've seen Tumwater a couple times, and each time Dylan Stevens just kind of taken over. So I'll go him as well.
All right, and overall, one track kid.
Right now, I'd probably Blake Kirkpatrick. I'd go another Tumwater kid. Blake Kirkpatrick. He's top 10 in both in the 100 and 200, and he's on some really fast Tumwater relays right now.
All right, Dylan, do you have a track kid you like?
I mean, Amanda Bennett sticks out partially because I also just WFS had a signing day last week, and Bennett was their track representative. She's going to Lane Obviously she could throw the jab, but she's also setting PRs in high jump. I think she added a foot to her PR at a meet not the Activators meet, but another meet last week at Tumwater, I think.
Do you mean pole vault?
Yeah, I do mean pole vault. Thank you.
All right. Before we wrap up, what's one big game you guys are excited for this week, or what game is going to have the most impact on that specific league standings this week?
Napavine and Adna play baseball on Friday, as
Which do Triple Swamp Cup.
Oh boy, have fun! Yeah. I'll be out of town.
They also play again on next Monday. Just 2 game set, one at each. And I want to say there was another.
Give me Centralia at Black Hills softball, because whoever wins that is starting to maybe have an inside track at that 4th EvCo district spot. So they meet for I believe the second time, might be the first time, I don't remember. But Centralia Black Hills play on Wednesday. That'll be an interesting one.
All right, cool. I guess we will wrap it up there, guys. Thanks for doing this special Easter edition, and good luck this week.